will now present the Deputy President, who is the only one that we are calling as a witness. And that thereafter, the National Assembly will make their...
The National Assembly has 1.5 hours for purposes of cross-examination. Thereafter, the senators will be given 1 hour to make its closing remarks. Once that is done, the Senate will move into a closed session as per our rules of procedure. So that is the program for this afternoon.
I'm now very clear, Mheshimiwa Speaker, and I thank you. The situation is now clear. But just before my colleagues on the other side close their case, can I, through Mheshimiwa Speaker, ask whether the National Assembly still wishes to call a witness whose affidavit was filed, the governor of the county government of Nairobi, Johnson Sakaja. We have a copy of his affidavit. Is he going to be called or not called? Because if the National Assembly is not calling that affidavit, whose affidavit is part of the record and was availed to us, that of his affidavit, Mheshimiwa Speaker, contains allegations that are extremely injurious to the Deputy President. So if he is not going to be called, for that affidavit to be expunged from the records of this Honorable Senate. Thank you.
Counsel for the National Assembly, you had listed quite a number of witnesses. Are you going to call all of them, or are you going to, for the record, are you going to close your case where we are now?
Mr. Speaker, sir, on behalf of the National Assembly, we shall close our case where we are. Mr. Speaker, sir, if you are, with your permission, I could respond to the submissions by my learned senior, Mr. Paul Mwite.
Please do.
Mr. Speaker, sir, at the beginning of the proceedings that we are currently going through, this House did invite parties to give indications as to the witnesses they wanted to call. Mr. Speaker, sir, we gave the list of the witnesses whom we thought were relevant for purposes of clarifying what we needed to have clarified. If counsel for His Excellency the Deputy President did not do as much or did not take advantage of that window that was open, surely they cannot blame us for it. But secondly, and more importantly, Mr. Speaker, sir, yesterday, in the course of the deliberations in relation to one of the preliminary questions that had been raised, you gave a very clear ruling on the intendment of Rule 20 of the rules of this House. In particular, the understanding was that every material that was forwarded by the Speaker of the National Assembly to this House constituted evidence in support of the allegations that are the subject of inquiry by this House. It then follows that if the application that learned senior counsel, Mr. Paul Mwita, is making were to be looked at in its totality, he is actually making an application to amend or to remove certain aspects of the evidence from the record. Mr. Speaker, sir, that is an issue that you settled and rested yesterday. I don't think it's an issue that is open for re-intervention. Mr. Speaker, sir, it should also suffice to note that even on our side, there are affidavits that form part of the record that came from the National Assembly. In particular, there is an affidavit sworn and which is in favor of His Excellency the Deputy President, an affidavit sworn by the joint executors of the will, that is Mr. Njoroge Rigeru together with the other executors. It is part of this record. We have not made an application to have it expunged. We have an opportunity to deal with it when the time comes. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, sir, the nature of the sittings that this House currently is undertaking is quasi-judicial. It is inquisitorial in nature. If that is to be the correct position, Mr. Speaker, sir, then the rules of evidence as we know it in the court would not necessarily bind the proceedings, because what has been presented is the subject of what the honorable senators are going to investigate. At the end of it, it is not a judgment that they will be giving, it will be a vote. I rest my case, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senior Counsel Paul Mwite.
Mheshimiwa Speaker, first and foremost, the affidavits that my colleague, my learned friend, referred to were sworn by the executors of the will of the late brother to the Deputy President. They were filed in the National Assembly, in the proceedings in the National Assemblies. They were never filed injurious to the Deputy President.